Hi again, David here.
And Aisha, congratulations!
You're just about halfway home. Step 3.
Crafting your story.
But what exactly does that mean?
Well, now that you found a gratitude story to tell,
And told it for the first time.
you're ready to shape your storytelling into something you can really be proud of.
We can do this by focusing on 3 things.
A strong beginning,
The hook,
a climax,
the moment,
and a message or moral.
the payoff.
We've been over this once before, right? On day 1,
After we watched Lance's and Morgan's stories of gratitude.
but it's like a magic trick. When you see it the first time,
You've got no idea how it's done.
so we're gonna break it down together.
And share some secrets for success.
Let's begin by watching gratitude story number 3 from Richard.
Not so long ago, a large truck pulled up to our house. Like a kid at Christmas, I'd been waiting weeks for what was inside. As they rolled the gorgeous jet black baby grand piano into a place of honor in our home, I could barely hold back tears. It was really going to be mine. The gift itself was way expensive, but what it meant to me, that was priceless. I'm Richard, and here's my story of gratitude for Spiritcorps. As a boy, I took piano lessons and hated them. I would never practice and dreaded that walk of shame every week up the long steps to confront my stern piano teacher. My mother hoped I would be improved somehow by Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven. But thanks to my older brother Steve, all I really cared about was rock and roll, Bob Dylan, and the Beatles. Steve was everyone's favorite. He could light up any room with his killer charm, always had big plans, and like any great pitchman, he could sell you on anything. 6 years younger, I was his loyal sidekick. Sure, I was smart, really good at math, and a champion public speaker. But Steve, Brother Steve, was an artist, the talented one, and I wanted to be just like him. But deep inside, I was sure I never could. All that changed just after my first year in college. Steve had a plan. He was going to start a band, needed a piano player, and thought I was the man for the job. Are you kidding? You played when you were a kid. Hey, I am not a musician. He just looked at me with that twinkle. Bro, you are whatever you say you are. I joined that band, dropped out of college for a while, and worked hard at it, day and night. To my great amazement, I became pretty darn good at music. Most of all, thanks to Steve, I had launched a whole new life devoted to the arts and my own creativity. He made it okay for me to see myself in a different way. I was the one holding me back. Permission to be the person I really wanted to be had to come from inside. On his 50th birthday, Steve's new wife had quite a surprise for him, a gorgeous, black, baby grand piano. He was only able to enjoy it for a few short months before a series of strokes left him disabled. 12 years later, he finally passed away, and that piano sat in my sister-in-law's house a good long while, until she knew one day just who should have it. I am so grateful every time I sit down to play those keys. Grateful to her, of course, and grateful for the freedom to be more than I imagined. A freedom I celebrate every day and would never have known if it weren't for my big brother Steve. What freedom are you grateful for? We hope you'll share your story for Spiritcorps. Together, we grow.
Okay, wow, where to begin?
At the beginning, right? With the hook.
Not exactly. You can't know how to get your listener interested.
Until you know what you want them to be interested in.
Start your story crafting with the climax, the moment.
A specific point in time or event when everything becomes clear.
Or changes. In Lance's story,
When he finally wakes up to the gift of reading and is filled with gratitude.
in Morgan's story,
When her grandmother takes that very first bite of the cabbage.
So let's look again at the script for Richard's story.
And working together, find his moment.
Here's a hint. It's somewhere on the screen now.
Please stop the video here while you figure this out. Welcome back.
We'll bet you landed on one of two spots.
When Richard actually gets Steve's piano from his sister-in-law.
Or these lines. He just looked at me with that twinkle.
Bro, you are whatever you say you are.
We're going with option 2.
But this is a gratitude story. What does Steve's line have to do with thankfulness?
As Richard tells us later, what he's most grateful for is not the piano.
It's the permission to be the person he really wanted to be.
When you look back, you'll see his whole story builds to this.
And that's no accident. He's built his whole story around this.
And that should be true in your story as well.
That's why we start here with the moment.
So let's move on.
To the hook. Right? I knew that.
The payoff is the point.
The moral, what you learned,
How you grew.
and why it's so important.
When Lance finally realizes he's deeply thankful for the freedom to read,
And the chance to love it.
Morgan learns how lucky she is to have a fridge full of food.
And thanks to her grandmother, she's grateful for every meal she eats.
So please stop our video now and find the payoff in Richard's story. The way we see it, Richard's payoff has 2 parts.
He is really grateful for 2 things.
Number 1, the freedom to be more than he imagined.
And number 2, the chance to honor his brother.
Every time he sits down at that gorgeous piano. Like we said on day 1, this is your gift to the listener.
But like many good gift givers, think Santa. Get in and get out of there fast.
After your story is climaxed in the moment, keep the payoff short and sweet.
If you're clear about what you learned,
And why it's important, make your point.
and go.
This will leave your listener.
Thinking.
And now it's time for
The hook.
Tell us why we should be interested.
Right up front.
Why should we care?
It's a tease
Make the audience want to know more.
without giving it all away.
This is your promise to the listener.
That your story will be worth their time.
Lance, what could a blank stare from a bunch of teenagers teach me about being thankful?
He's already got my attention.
Turns out, quite a bit.
I'm hooked.
Tell me more.
Or Morgan's claim right up front.
Her grandmother's story changed the way she saw the world.
And her place in it.
She gives away nothing.
And promises to solve a mystery. How could a head of cabbage be that important?
Your listener should feel like they don't know where they're going.
But they sense somehow you're going to take them there.
So, writing the hook is pretty easy
And only possible.
once you know where the story is going. The moment.
And the payoff.
Morgan knows her story climaxes when her grandmother takes that first bite.
And knows the point of her story is to be thankful for the simple things we all take for granted.
So she teases us with a cabbage that changed her life.
Okay, here's the beginning of Richard's story.
Please stop the video and find his hook. Did you land on this?
The gift itself was way expensive.
But what it meant to me, that was priceless.
Can you feel Richard's promise that the story will be important?
Doesn't it make you want to hear more?
Once you start paying attention, you'll begin to see hooks everywhere.
At the beginning of every Netflix episode.
Or often right at the end.
That's why you keep watching, or shall we say, binging.
Nearly every pop song has a hook.
It makes you want to hear more.
And promises you're gonna love it.
So here are your next steps.
First, reread your first draft with your partner and find the moment.
If it's not entirely clear yet, talk it through.
And figure it out. Don't be afraid to be a little creative here.
Maybe you don't remember exactly the way that it happened. No problem.
Make it up.
He didn't say lie. Just use your imagination a bit if you need to.
It's a story after all. Don't be afraid to make it a good one.
Okay, after you've each found your moment, move on to the payoff.
Talk it through. What did you learn?
And why is that important? Not just to you.
To all of us.
Then finally,
The hook! Make it interesting.
or mysterious.
Have fun.
With your 3 elements in place, fill in the gaps.
Richard does that by telling us about his big brother.
And sharing with us his own doubts about being a musician.
Lance describes the early morning 8th graders.
And how they didn't want to be there.
We can't understand his aha moment without that.
What details does your story need in order to set up the climax?
Morgan tells us that her grandmother was a Holocaust survivor.
And that life working in Russia was cold and bleak.
We have to know that.
If her grandmother wasn't hungry all the time.
What's the big deal about a bite of cabbage?
Once you've given it your best, send that draft to your partner.
Exchange notes, check out week 2 guidelines.
For some tips about what to look for in your partner's second draft.
Take those notes to heart when you get them back from your partner.
Remember, they are your first audience.
It doesn't mean everything they say is right.
But there will be something right in what they say.
Your job is to listen, to take their comments in.
And see what lands, what actually feels right for you.
Then make these last changes.
And send them to your story coach.
End of week 2.
You'll see us one more time.
In a few days.
Work hard.
Help each other.
And don't forget to turn to your partner at some point.
To say thanks.